We're going to talk about marriage going forward because marriage in a lot of cultures now seems so old-fashioned. And marriage isn't necessarily the greatest fit now that everybody's in the hustle culture. I was in it more when I was an entrepreneur and working with other entrepreneurs, and it's sort of like something's got to give, and what gave was long-term relationships. And the other thing that changed was it used to be shameful to split up. In my parents' day, somebody who entered into a relationship, a woman who entered into a relationship with a married man, was called a home wrecker. I haven't even heard that phrase lately, home wrecker. But it's kind of the notion. The notion is that marriages were what families were built on. And now we're saying you don't need a marriage to build a family. You can have blended families. You can have families where the kids connect to their mom, their dad, their stepdad, their stepmom. I don't even know what happens with kids where there's an open relationship, if there's a third partner involved or not. Suddenly, kids have the opportunity to have a whole bunch of different relationships. And I don't think we know yet what that means for children. What we know is that if kids could choose, they would not choose divorce. There was a study done a while back that was basically a study of kids, and the answer, which I will paraphrase, is that kids don't care if their parents are unhappy. They would rather their parents were unhappy and stayed together most of the time than if their parents were mildly unhappy and split up. I'm not talking about abuse or tragic circumstances, but kids like stability. And now suddenly we're in a world where stability of relationships isn't valued so much. And there are a lot of forces around pulling those families apart. I'm realizing that in the US, as an example, we don't have a presidential candidate who's only been married once. We have two guys who've been married at least twice. And nobody blinks an eye. It used to be that when someone was running for office, it was shameful if they had been divorced. I remember I was married when I was young, and I was married for 8 years, and I would have only been married for 6 years, except I felt this deep shame about being the first person in my family to get a divorce. It was so bad. And now, we know that Gwyneth Paltrow didn't coin the language, but somehow this idea of conscious uncoupling is okay. And celebrities talk about how it was better that they split up because they learned so much. I'm not doubting that, but what I'm wondering is if all these new rules about how people are together and all these new combinations that place a higher premium on the intensity of shorter term commitments are going to serve our kids well, our communities well, and our cultures well. I've told Pop-Up, sometimes I feel like we're too old trees. And the thing is, underground, the root structure of trees is bigger than the leaves, right? Underground, there is more space taken up by trees than what you're seeing. And the roots underground talk to each other. So here's the thing about being an old tree. The whole ecology depends on trees. I'm looking at some trees outside, and the shade and the light and the way things work, that's providing shelter for animals, for plants, for birds, because as the branches drop, the birds can find twigs to make their nest. And as the leaves bloom, there's a place for them to find shade. Trees are essential. And because we're old trees, we provide this enormous support to everything around us. We can be proud of that. I'm proud of that. Pop-Ups, I think, is proud of that. He's looking at me and nodding and saying, yeah, I'm proud of that. And you can't be an old tree if you're a sapling.